Hello, good morning. Rachel here from Nutrition in Bloom, and I am so happy to be chatting with you today as I make sure everything is all set up. Okay, everything is great. I am Rachel. I am a pediatric dietitian and feeding expert. My business is called Nutrition in Bloom, and I help parents let go of stress, frustration, and just worry when it comes to feeding their kids by helping them help their kids develop a positive relationship with food and help their kids also get their kids to try new food from a sense of curiosity and wonder. And we take out any bribing, negotiation, punishment when it comes to feeding and create a really, really positive association. So that is what I am here to help you do. Each week I go typically create one video, maybe three times a month, and I talk all about feeding. So if you are new here, if you're watching this video, welcome. And if you ever have any nutrition or feeding questions, please always feel free to let me know so I can absolutely address them, because if you are struggling with something, you are absolutely not alone. And this is why I do what I do, is to help you help your kid, help your child. So this month, I've been kind of talking about things from our perspective. And next month in February, I will be diving into a bit more practical tactics and tools and strategies that you can use to help your child try new foods and help feeding go a little bit better. But I talk a lot about this kind of mindset stuff from meaning our as a parent or a caregiver, from our perspective, because it is really important. And as much as we might not want to think about it, or you might be like, why does this even matter? It absolutely matters, because how you come to the table, yes, pun 100% intended, how you come to the table has a really big impact on how your child eats, how they feed, and how they develop a relationship with food. And before I dive into what we'll be talking about today, which is letting go of judgment when it comes to feeding, I also want to just talk about this idea of a relationship with food and what that really means. Because I find, in my world and what I see, that this can kind of be a buzzword, that this like healthy relationship with food. And what I mean by that is that I want a child's relationship with food to be positive, to be based on trust, to be something that just feels really good and is filled with joy. So whether you have a child who is eating 5 foods or who eats anything you give them, that relationship with food can absolutely be positive. And to tell you where I'm coming from and kind of why I do this without getting too much into my backstory, is that I did not grow up with a positive relationship with food or my body, and it absolutely affected me my whole life. And it wasn't until my young adult life that I began to really heal this relationship. So as parents, as caregivers, we have the absolute power to help our child come feeding with a positive relationship. And wherever you are struggling, I am here to help you at any step of the way. I work with a lot of parents one-on-one who are really, really struggling, and feeding is very stressful, to help create this relationship, but to also make feeding easier for parents. I also have a group program, which I'll share a little bit more about at the end of this video. Okay, so today though, I want to talk about letting go of judgment when it comes to feeding. And I love to provide some examples when I can. So I just want to provide an example of myself and where I came from. And I've shared this in some marketing posts, so you may or may not have seen this, but I was having a really, really hard time over the holiday season, and it was this what now feels like just a very silly situation. So it had to do with my daughter and her preschool and the class that she was in, and how I was feeling worried about it and her development. And it was this moment of me freaking out basically. So I have a very good friend named Eva who is always very helpful in situations like this, and she really helped me to change the way I saw the situation and to realize that it was my triggers, my relationship with friends growing up, and like my triggers that were actually making the situation feel so much worse than it actually was. And my daughter was doing fine, doing totally fine. And and instead of thinking of it as a kind of like, poor me, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to, send an email to the director of the school? Just like my head was spinning, which it sometimes does. So if that happens to you, you are not alone. But my friend Eva reminded me, like, these are your triggers, and actually you have the opportunity to help your daughter and to help her grow from this. And it was like this moment of aha that, this only happened about a month ago, but I have shared this story with people dozens of times because it was such a enlightening moment for me. And she also reminded me, and here is how this relates to feeding, is that like, this is exactly how I help parents when it comes to feeding. So it can be really easy to freak out as a parent, to worry, to feel shame. For me, I tend to sometimes blow things out of proportion. I'm not sure if you can relate. But what if instead, so how I'm relating this to feeding, so what if instead we look at these situations and instead of seeing them as our child struggling, we see it as an opportunity. So can this be an opportunity to help our child become more resilient? We don't give up on our children, right? We don't shame them. We want to give them skills, tools, strategies to help them and to help them become, have joy when it comes to eating. And we have the opportunity to do that. So now I'm going to kind of dive into where I'm going with this, but when it comes to this idea of judgment when it comes to feeding, first of all, you are not alone, and I want to, share with you some strategies and some reasons why we can let go of this judgment when it comes to feeding. And the reason that I wanted to share this story this week is a couple of reasons. One is because of the situation that happened with my preschool and kind of how it relates to feeding. But the other is that there's been a lot of families that I've spoken to, definitely over the past month, but for sure over the past, year, 2 years, like since I've had my practice, where there's a lot of judgment, right? And a lot of this judgment, it's honestly, yes, there's absolutely maybe some coming from friends or family members, but a lot of this judgment comes from ourselves, and we judge ourselves. I have heard from so many parents that, part of what's going on with feeding is that they feel this judgment of, well, I go to the park with a few friends with kids and their kids will just eat whatever the parents give to them. And why can't my kid do that? What is going on with my child? And, if we can start, like, just a starting point of taking away some of that judgment, taking away some of that, that guilt or shame or judgment, it can actually have a positive effect on our child and their eating. So I'm going to talk to you about, that's one piece of it, but I also want to talk to you a little bit about why you can stop feeling that guilt. So, because it's really easy for me to say, stop feeling guilty. Yeah, okay, who's gonna ever stop by me just saying it? But I want you to listen to my 5 reasons that I've created of why you can stop feeling guilty. So hopefully you can take these things that I'm talking about and just start to paint a little picture for yourself. Okay, so I first want to say, you did not cause your child's picky or selective eating. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I do not like to use the term picky eating, but you did not cause your child's eating, okay? Like, I don't even want to say more, any like, caveats or anything to that, because I hear this a lot, like, well, it's because I didn't feed them this way as an infant, or I didn't, expose them to enough foods. No. Every child has a different temperament, has different maybe sensory inputs and sensory things that might be going on. So you did not cause your child's picky eating. Take that out. Let that go if you feel that way. Okay? It is absolutely, you did not cause it, number one, and it is absolutely not a reflection of you as a parent. Just like if I think about my story and how upset, I got with my daughter, like, that's not a reflection of me as a parent. That was me going through a situation that was really hard for me at the time. Okay? So we're going to take away any guilt. I also want you to remember that everybody comes from a different starting point. So whether your child eats 5 foods, whether your child eats 20 foods, whether your child eats really small portions, whatever it may be, that is your starting point. And, I almost want to say, like, put blinders on so you are focusing on your child when it comes to helping them build that positive relationship with food. So remember that is your personal starting point, and something that I can absolutely help you with is where we make progress from here, right? It's not about, my child needs to get where this child is. And I know sometimes for those of us that have more than one child, sometimes it can be really hard not to fall into that comparison trap. But remember, your child is unique and special, and they come from a different starting point. Okay. The next thing I want to say here is that your child can absolutely 100% meet their nutrition needs on a limited diet. Okay? They may have a very small amount of foods that they're eating. They can still meet their nutrition needs. One of the things that I help those that I work with is making sure their child is meeting their needs based on what they are eating. So without sneaking, without hiding, how can we make sure their child's meeting their needs? I also look at health from a concept of, well, how are they growing at a rate that's right for them? How are they sleeping? How's their energy level? Looking at a lot of these different things. Do they need maybe a multivitamin or some kind of supplement? Which, if they do, it's fine. But I want you just to remember that your child can absolutely meet their needs. Okay, so that was tip number 3, or my 3rd reason. So my 4th reason here is that when we let go of guilt and shame and some of the stress that we carry, we can actually help our child to make progress. So, what do I mean by that? When we come to the table, yes, I'm using that pun kind of again, but when we come to the table, when we have stress, anxiety, some of these emotions like that might be a little more based in fear, our child can sometimes see that and sometimes reflect on that. Whereas if we come to the table in a little bit of a more positive light, it tends to help the mealtime go a little bit better. So how can you start to let go of some of that so that mealtime can go a little bit better? And just to give you one example of what I mean here from a scientific body level, stress releases cortisol, right? The stress hormone, and that actually dampens hunger. So when a child, if they do feel stressed at a table, sometimes it can actually decrease their hunger because of that hormone that's released. So just something to think about in that respect. Okay. And then the last thing I want to say here, I don't know if this is just a reason or just I want to boost you up a little bit, but I want you to know that you are wonderful, you are perfect, and you are the right parent or caregiver for your child just as you are. So even if you're maybe struggling with your own relationship with food, which most of us adults, who isn't, okay? You are doing the best you can in the situation that you're in. So just, go back to like you're at your starting point and where can you go from here? Okay, that's really the gist of it. Okay. I like to keep my videos around 15 minutes, so I'm going to end now, but I want you to know, I want you to remember all these things. You did not cause your child's picky or selective eating. Everyone's coming from a different starting point. Your child can meet their needs on a limited diet. Letting go of some of these fear-based emotions can help make progress, and you are wonderful and perfect just as you are. If you're watching this and you're thinking like, this sounds awesome, I want more now, like where do I go from here? I want my child to actually try new foods and to expand. Send me a message wherever you're watching this, on whatever platform. Oh, you are so welcome, Jenny. Thank you for watching live. I work one-on-one with families. I also have a online program that includes an online course, one-on-one support, and a group. It's called Conquering Mealtimes, and that is to help parents exactly that, conquer mealtimes. So if you are interested, I'm going to link to that. I'm also going to link to my 4 steps to help new foods guide. So yeah, get in touch, and even I offer free 15-minute discovery calls. So join me, and we can just get you started on this path. So take something away from this video, let it go. One of my favorite sayings from Princess Elsa, let it go. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and I can't wait to hear how feeding goes for you. Have a great rest of your day.